Hi, my name is Lexi. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about how to not overeat on an eating day. So I'm not going to do a weekly update this week. As I mentioned in my last video, I'm kind of going to be going away from those for about a month or so, just until I figure some things out. But I will resume those eventually, and I will report all of my weights that I logged in during that time. So don't worry about missing anything. I will catch up with that eventually. Just gonna focus on other things for now. Today, what I wanted to talk about was, a lot of people at first are worried about getting through a fasting day, and I did a video about that a couple weeks ago, my tips for getting through a fasting day. But the other part that people worry about a lot is overeating or binging on an eating day. So I know that there's like a really broad range when you're thinking about binging. So I'm not necessarily addressing like binge eating disorder because that's out of the scope of my abilities and knowledge. I've never been diagnosed with that or anything, so I can't really speak to that experience. Yeah, I'm not pretending to understand everything that you may be going through with that, but I do feel like some of these suggestions will help most people who are struggling with the fear of overeating on an eating day or the actual practice of overeating on an eating day. I really hope that it helps. And definitely, as always, feel free to leave any comments that may be helpful for other people if you have something to add. The first thing I want to say is just to remember that when you start out fasting, there's going to be an adjustment period where, your body is still kind of trying to figure things out. And you may not have reached that point of metabolic flexibility or appetite correction where your hunger and your satiety signals and your hormones are balanced. And so, I would expect that you kind of just expect to overeat a little bit in the beginning on your eating days because you're still figuring that out. And I do think that there's a real thing about your stomach kind of shrinking over time with intermittent fasting, with alternate day fasting, especially since you're going a little bit of an extended period of time without food. So, because that there are people who overeat a lot whose stomachs are obviously stretched out a ton, because you hear about people who can eat like 6 large pizzas in a day, and there's just no physical way that my stomach could even hold that much food, So I believe that is a real thing, like your stomach size changing depending on fasting and just how much you eat and all of that. So it takes time for those adjustments. So just don't expect perfection, expect progress, and always just try to be aware and be honest with yourself and have your intentions set on having balance in your life and feeling in control, not so much being perfect. Because I think if you expect perfection, you're going to set yourself up for failure. And so we don't want that. So the first thing that I want to talk about is that what you break your fast with matters. Now, I'm not going to tell you what you should break your fast with, because this is definitely something you have to experiment with. Some people can go ahead and eat like a full meal and be totally fine when they break their fast. Other people need to be careful. For me, I've found that having something with a little bit of fat and protein helps me just set myself up for success for the day. And so for instance, I pretty much always break my fast with a handful of nuts. I've shared this on my channel before, but this is what I like. They're just these roasted mixed nuts that I get from Trader Joe's. There is cashews, almonds, hazelnuts, Brazil nuts, pecans, and rice bran oil and salt. That's what's in here. So that's what I really like. And then I wait an hour and then I just eat whatever it is I want to eat. Usually it's leftovers from a dinner previously from the week. I don't like eat breakfast or anything like that. Sometimes I'll have like eggs and toast or something like that. Honestly, at this point, when I get to this hour mark, it doesn't really matter what I eat as long as it's not something really sugary. So for instance, once I had a donut, and I actually don't think I waited even an hour after I had my nuts. I just really wanted to eat a donut because it was fresh, and you know, donuts taste the best when they're fresh. Like, I do not even want to eat a donut at the end of the day when it's been sitting out for hours, you know? And so I ate a donut, and for one thing, I felt yucky like all day, like sick. And also I just was craving sugar all day long. And it was like an uphill battle. So I really know for me that like what I eat, what I break my fast with, and what I eat next does matter. And so it may matter for you. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is apple cider vinegar. I now have a habit of I just put like a cap full of this in my glass of water. And this is from Trader Joe's too. I love Trader Joe's, you may have noticed. Anyway, so I just put a cap full of this in my glass of water. I do that for two reasons. One, because I had a kidney stone, and that is supposed to help preventing kidney stones. And also I have heard that when you start with apple cider vinegar, if you break your fast with it, it will help you with those like sugar cravings and, you know, processing carbs and all of that. So can't go wrong there. It's very inexpensive and it's good for you. So why not? Another thing that may help is probiotics. I'm not good at taking probiotics regularly, and I couldn't even recommend a certain brand or anything like that. But probiotic, also rich foods like sauerkraut or kimchi. Haven't been brave enough to try kimchi yet, but I know those are really good for your gut health and for you know, building up that microbiome, which really helps with cravings and your overall health. The next thing is trigger foods. So if you really look at what you binge on or overeat the most, you'll probably notice that there's like a certain kind of food that keeps being a problem. And so I would say that, you know, it's probably a good idea to not buy those things, because like I know that when I buy, here I'm going to talk about Trader Joe's again, but when I buy the peanut butter filled chocolate covered pretzels from Trader Joe's, like I'm going to eat the whole bag. You know, I just can't stop. They're like so addicting. And I haven't bought them in a really long time, so I couldn't tell you if I would do that still, but yeah, there's just certain things that are definitely harder to stop eating. And I think that's because a lot of food, especially highly processed food, it's engineered to make you overeat it. So it's not your fault. It's just the way that it is designed for you to overeat it. So you just have to be careful of those things and maybe keep them away, at least until you feel like you are in control. Or, you know, if you buy them, just be like, I'm gonna eat this whole bag. So just be okay with that, you know, and that's that, you know. It's just being aware, I think. But the next thing I'm gonna say that kind of goes along with that is to not over restrict. And I know that restriction often ends up in binging for a lot of people. And when I say binging, again, this is a broad spectrum. I just mean like overeating, or when you are compulsively eating and you just feel like you can't stop and you're making yourself sick. That's kind of my definition of binging that I'm using in this video. And I think a lot of us have experience with that. So what I do though is that I do want to lessen the amount of sugar in my life, and sugar is definitely the problem for me. You know, a lot of people have like salty foods are kind of their thing, you know, so chips and stuff like that. That's not a problem for me at all. Neither is really bread and stuff like that, unless it's like fresh bread, but I don't have a huge problem eating massive amounts of bread. It's sugar all the way for me, particularly chocolate. So what I'll do is I will do what I've kind of coined the term, I guess, sugar cycling. instead of saying carb cycling, because I think carb cycling is a whole other thing that is more complicated. But what I mean by that is on my weekday eat days, which are Tuesday, Thursday, I consciously try to lessen my sugar intake. So sometimes more than others, but like when I'm doing a week where I don't want to eat sugar or I want to cut it back a lot, what I'll do is I will, I'll say I don't want to eat any sugar today. I will allow myself dark chocolate and sugar-free chocolate. So what I like is these, sorry, I've got the clip on there. So Lily's chocolate chips. I like the milk chocolate ones because they taste the closest to like real chocolate to me. And they're actually really good. So you can find these a lot of places now that keto is so popular. I found those at just a local grocery store. I'll link all these things down below though if you want to check them out on Amazon. So I'll either have some of those. I make these sugar-free muffins that I really enjoy. And also the other thing is, so like I said, dark chocolate. So the funny thing is that I was eating squares of this. Well, I still do, but this is like one of my favorite chocolates. It's so, so, so good. And it's dark chocolate. And so I was thinking like, oh, this is low sugar. This is dark chocolate. But then I compared it to, sorry, this is like almost all used up, but this milk chocolate from Trader Joe's has, per 30 grams of chocolate, it has 17 grams of sugar, okay? And this has 14 grams of sugar. So actually not that much less. So be aware that dark chocolate, even though it does typically have less sugar than milk chocolate, doesn't always necessarily. This dark chocolate, also from Trader Joe's, can't even see the front of it, but it's basically the same thing as this, but just, whoops, dark chocolate. But this has 8 grams of sugar per 30 grams of chocolate. So a lot less. Does that mean I'm gonna stop eating this? No, because I love it. And actually, just based on my response, this does not cause me to crave more and more chocolate. It's just satisfying. So, and also it's more expensive, so I'm less likely to overdo it because, I just can't afford to buy a lifetime supply of it. But anyway, so that's that. That's what my sugar cycling is that I try to cut back on the sugar on my weekdays, eat days, and then on the weekends, I just say whatever, like I try not to make myself sick, and that's kind of my only guidelines on the weekends. And that way I feel like it's very balanced. I don't feel restricted, but I do feel like I'm being aware and not overdoing it and just getting caught up in this whirlwind of like overdoing it on sugar and being in this cycle of never-ending sugar. Yeah. Sorry, that was like long-winded. Anyway, and the other thing I would say is to eat what you want first. So there may be something that's like really tempting you that, you're like, I don't want to eat it, but I'm just gonna try and eat all these other things. And then you end up eating all these other things and you end up eating that anyway. So I kind of think if there's something that's really on your mind, like just go ahead and have some, and maybe you'll only want like a bite of it, Like I feel like sometimes when you build something up in your mind too much, that's when you're gonna overdo it. Instead of just saying, yeah, go ahead. And then you just, you have a taste and you're done. So that happens to me all the time where like my kids will be eating something on my fasting day. I'm like, oh, that looks so good. And then I will like have some of it, and especially when it's something that's actually quite gross, like boxed macaroni and cheese. And I know some people like that, but I think it's kind of gross. So I'll have a bite of it the next day and I'm like, oh, I don't want it. I don't want that. And so like, sometimes I'll even spit it out, but I let myself have it. And then I remember it the next time. Yeah, that's not that good. So moving on, the next thing I would suggest is to have healthy options available. So this takes forward planning. Meal planning is really helpful. I like to plan my meals a month in advance just so that I feel like in control of my life. I know that takes some time to build up to, but also just having things like carrot sticks or cheese sticks or celery sticks or olives or whatever, or like I mentioned, the muffins, have those available. And so what I'll do with the muffins, I just want to give you a quick little tip about this is I don't like to bake on my fasting days. I would actually enjoy it, but you know, it's just better to eat things that are baked when they're fresh. So I will prepare things to bake so that I remember the next morning. So like I'll set out the muffin tins with the liners and I'll mix up like the dry ingredients and stuff and get that ready, like so that all I have to do is add the wet ingredients, mix it up, and then bake them. So, you know, that sets me up for success because I have a lot of it prepared and that I don't have to, you know, get later on in the day and be like, oh, I was gonna make muffins this morning, but I forgot. And it just helps me to have that prepared. So that's a tip for you. And also just on that note, make sure that they are healthy things that you enjoy. Like don't force yourself to eat things that you absolutely hate. There is a wide variety of fruits and vegetables and things that are good for you that, you know, hopefully you will find something that you really like so that you can have what you like ready and then it makes you feel happy to eat it. So the other thing I wanted to mention was something that I used to use on fasting days, but I don't anymore, is gum is one thing. So gum keeps your mouth busy and it just kind of like, sometimes you just have that urge to chew something. This is like a xylitol gum, so it's supposed to be good for your teeth as well. And it has, you know, xylitol is more of a natural sweetener versus, you know, some of the nasty stuff that's in other kinds of sugar-free gum. So I like this one and I'll link that below as well. And the other thing is sparkling flavored water. Like if you're trying to kick a soda habit, this can be helpful as well, just to have something, you know, fizzy and flavored to drink. This is bubbly. It's the cherry flavor. It tastes like cherry icy to me, minus the sugar, of course, but the flavor is kind of like a cherry icy. So yeah, like I mentioned, I used to drink those or chew gum and drink those sometimes when I fasted, but then I learned about the possible insulin release associated with the sweet taste and even the flavor that can happen. So just to be on the safe side, I avoid those now, but no judgment if you don't. But if you do want to learn more, I did a video on clean fasting and, you know, it may help you. So the other thing that I think is important is to adopt an abundance mindset. So what this is just in your mind, you think like there is enough and there's enough for everyone. And it's just kind of, instead of always feeling like you have to seize the opportunity to eat whatever's in front of you because it's just never going to be there again, to recognize that it's going to come around again. You can have it on the next day. Also, especially with like holiday treats and stuff, because I know that and I kind of went overboard this last holiday season. I've thought a lot about it and I have some thoughts I'll probably share on a future video. But, you know, just recognizing that even those things, they'll come around again. You know, they'll come around the next year. You'll see those things again. Like it's not like you have to eat everything in sight to, you know, seize the moment. In fact, it makes it less enjoyable if you're just trying to shovel it all down. You know, it's better just to really savor the things that you choose and to enjoy them instead of just having it be this like mind-numbing experience. But yeah, you can always freeze something for later. If the freezer is your friend, I talk about it a lot, you know, that you can set aside something for you to eat later if you are done right now or if you're fasting. The next thing I want to talk about is longer windows. So I know a lot of people just when they start fasting, they start to think more is better. I need to just fast as much as I possibly can. And that's not always going to be a good thing. So the theory behind alternate day fasting, especially, is that you are switching between fasting and feasting, and you're allowing yourself to really rev up your metabolism on your eating days by eating enough. And so some people, if they have a short window, like they're like, oh, I can't, I'm gonna binge if I give myself too many hours. Actually, they will binge more if they try to, put themselves in this small window because they're trying to maximize that time. I can eat a lot within a 4 to 6 hour window. I could even eat a lot within a 1 hour window, So I would say that if this seems to be a problem for you, you may consider extending your window on your eating days. Mine tend to be about 8 to 9 hours, probably about 9 hours. Maybe even 10. Yeah, because I would say I break my fast between 7 and 8 in the morning, and then I will start fasting between 4 and 5. So it really just depends. But and I just allow myself to eat throughout that time. I don't restrict snacks. A lot of people do. That's totally up to you if you feel like that would benefit you, but I just don't, because again, I feel like that becomes more restrictive, and I'm trying not to get myself into a restrictive mindset, because that is what has caused a lot of problems for me in the past. And this has just worked for me really well. So on Saturday also, I tend to have an even longer window, because what I'll do is I'll break my fast at around 8 or so in the morning. I'm not strict about the times that I break my fast or start my fast. It's just a general kind of what happens. And then at night, I will go to like 9:30, because I like to have a treat with my husband after the kids go to bed. Like I'll have a small bowl of ice cream just to have that experience, because I never eat at night on the other days. And then on Sundays, because Saturday and Sunday are my back-to-back eating days, I'll tend to have a shorter window. Now, I didn't always do that, but I've just kind of wanted to lately. So I'll have like a 6 to 7 hour window, maybe from like 11 in the morning until 6 or 5 or 6, So that's just what works for me. There's so many different ways you can do it. You can customize it to what is important in your life and work around those things, and just, learn over time how you feel best and what schedule works for you. Okay, and then I just wanted to mention quickly in closing that there's a really great podcast that was on the Resetter podcast. This is Dr. Mindy's podcast. It was number 38, and I'll link it below. And it was Dr. Mindy with a woman named Autumn Smith, and it was about understanding the psychology of food. And it was a great interview, just talking about, why we do what we do with food, and just how to build a better relationship with food. And I can tell you that for me, alternate day fasting has been an amazing tool for building a better relationship with food. It works for my brain, just the, having an eating day and a fasting day and not having to worry too much within those boundaries. It's just helped me a whole lot. So I really hope that this video helps you. Again, please leave any comments if you have further suggestions. And yeah, just be gentle with yourself, and try not to beat yourself up if you had a bad day, because I think you can learn from those. I think that you will not want to feel that way again. And again, this has to come from a place of loving yourself, because if you don't want to feel like crap, then you're going to continue to try and shift things in your life to make you feel better. So work on that, and just maintaining the balance. And I hope that you find this information helpful. So I will talk to you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.